Hey guys, been a while. Um, I I apologize for having been so long between posting videos. Um, Been a lot going on, holiday season, work, etc., family issues. Um, you know the drill. You're all going through it too. But there's just so much going on this weekend. I just had to post videos because there's so much good stuff out there. Um, Several different things I want to share with you. We're going to start off with some new stuff from the Templin Institute. Then we're going to move into the new Marvel stuff that just got released. Um, I've come to the conclusion that I've been too erratic in how I've been doing the channel. I need to focus on one subject at a time, unless something special comes up, like the Marvel releases this weekend. Um, and I'm just going to focus down on one thing at a time and go ahead and knock that out. For instance, I've still not finished Hell's Reach, and that was one of the very first things we started off doing, and I've still not finished it, and I've got to finish Hell's Reach. In the meantime, there is something I wanted to share with you guys, and since we're starting off with Warhammer stuff from the Templin Institute, as I told you guys, I'm working on a new army, and I don't know how well you can see him. This is the sergeant from my new uh, Primaris army that I'm building. This is the first new model I've built in quite a while. Uh, I'm a little. I'm of two minds about the new Primaris models. There's a genericness to them that I don't like, which I guess in a way sort of reflects the Primaris. They're brand new. They're only a couple of hundred years old. They haven't had time to build the fancy schmancy super armor and artificer stuff that you see in older chapters. All their weapons and equipment is brand new. So that that genericness amongst them, I guess it reflects the reality of the game. It's fluff worthy. The other thing I don't like about the minis themselves is the lack of customization. They're almost, but not quite, snapped together. There are the pieces that must go together in a certain way and in a certain place, and that's how they work. And then again, it's almost a throwback to the old days when the model sat there like this, you know, legs wide spread apart, arms facing forward, bolt gun like this. That was what you had. That was what you got. I don't like that aspect of it, but it'll grow on me. Right now, all I've got going is one tactical squad that's not quite all together. I'm putting on the bits right now for the various accessories of kit, and my plan is going to be the fourth company of the Ultramarines. Now, I started this out. Um, the idea of it was to build the fourth company of the Ultramarines, and it was going to be it was going to be a company in transition. We were going to have a mix of Primaris and traditional Marines, and I was going to build it Codex ready, which meant 6 units of troops, 2 fast attack, 2 heavy support, 2 dreadnoughts, a captain, 2 lieutenants now, and a chaplain. And just to flesh it out, I was going to add in whatever it pleased God for me to find and have. And then there was just going to be tons of troop transports, rhinos for the tactical guys, maybe um, Razorbacks if it turns out to be Devastator squads. If not, then whatever the new Primaris troop transport is. I can't think of the name of it right now. I'm so unfamiliar with this new stuff. It's almost like I'm a brand new player. That's kind of an interesting thing too. Um, but anyway, lo and behold, as I'm sitting here putting these guys together, you can't find ultramarine blue in a spray can anymore. I don't like it. How am I supposed to mass produce Space Marines like Belisarius Call if I can't get a can of cobalt blue Space Marine, Ultramarine spray stuff? Um, I'm not that good a painter. I'm just a hack. But anyway, I'll have to look around and see if I can find something comparable. You guys got any suggestions? Something comparable that would let me, spray out, ultramarine blue or something pretty close to it. But anyway, lo and behold, as I am going through this process of planning out this army, damn if they ain't gonna make an Uriel Ventress model. Uriel Ventress is, of course, the captain of the Fourth. For years, he was not listed in the fluff as the captain of the Fourth. Captain Adeus was, but as late, or excuse me, not as late, as early as the Deathbringer novel, the first Warhammer novel I ever read, which was by, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was Graham McNeil. We're introduced to Uriel Ventress as the captain of the Fourth Company. This is when the Satan were first being introduced. Anyway, and so now I'm just even more fired up. I'm going to build this army. It's going to have to be a slow build because your boy's broke between everything that's going on, Christmas and all whatnot, family obligations. So it's going to be a very slow build. Anyway, let's talk about what we've got tonight. We've got the Emperor of Mankind from the Templin Institute. I don't think anybody has done a video, or rather a series of videos, better than Luton did on the Emperor. I don't think at 18 minutes this is going to come anywhere near close to, I think he did 3 hours worth of stuff on the Emperor. But let's see what the Templin Institute's got for us tonight. Wait, back that up. What was that? I want to see that. Yeah, nothing, because we don't know.
Lost amidst the endless temples, fortresses, and hierocrologies that have long since covered Holy Terror, there can be found a lone mountain. Upon its harsh granite face have been carved the stern visages of 4 warrior kings, to which countless pilgrims now offer sacrament. Who these men were, that the Imperium of Man should choose to honor them in such a way upon the divine soil of the throne world itself, has long since been lost to the ages.
Okay, I don't actually know who this is. I've never heard this before. Do you guys know who these 4 people are? The fact that there are 4 of them makes me think it's the 4 members of the 4 original Inquisitors who become the Grey Knights.
They are venerated simply as nameless heroes, and that is enough for the faithful. The notion that such figures might predate the Imperium itself died upon the lips of historical scholars who perished millennia ago, and if any thought to assert such claims now, they would surely be executed for heresy.
Mm-hmm.
Yet This lone mountain is in truth one of the last surviving links between the Imperium and the ages of mankind that came before. A few across the Imperium have unlocked the secrets to an unnaturally long life. Some among their number can remember the fiery nightmare of the Horus Heresy, when the Imperium was nearly split asunder.
The Space Wolves Dreadnought. I can't think of his name right now. I'm wanting to call him Logan Grimnar, and that's not it. Bjorn. Yeah, my boy Bjorn.
Fewer still might have even seen the unrivaled glories of the Great Crusade, or the terrible and mysterious Dark Age of technology.
Eldrad was there. That's 2 of them that come to my mind off the top of my head.
Perhaps there may even be a blessed few who have persisted for so long that they might share first-hand accounts of how mankind first spread across the galaxy, how industry was brought to Mars, or give names to those 4 kings carved onto the face of a lone mountain. But across the million worlds of the Imperium of Man, there is but a single soul that can undeniably be said to have witnessed these events and so much more. A single soul that spans the eternity of mankind's existence. A single soul that connects humanity both to its past and to whatever future it might have remaining. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of a million worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting
As a
carcass writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls die every day, for whom blood is drunk and flesh
is eaten.
Human blood and human flesh, the stuff of which the Imperium is made. He is the God Emperor of mankind.
Yeah, that's the old school. That's been the lore for at least as long as I've played, 20 years.
In life, the Emperor was the perfection of mankind, a manifestation of the ultimate potential of his species. There was no field in which he did not excel, no physical or mental test in which he exhibited anything less than transcendent talent. He was a peerless statesman, military leader, philosopher, and scientist. Seemingly immortal, he was able to craft his mind and body across countless lifetimes, but his experience accounts for only a fraction of his ability. The Emperor was a psyker, able to draw power from the extra-dimensional realm known as the Immaterium. His capabilities here were likewise unrivaled, and there were few beings to have ever existed across reality that demonstrated his same level of control or raw psychic strength. In death, the Emperor is a shattered wreck, more corpse than man, yet clinging to life through both his own inexorable will and the wondrous forgotten technologies of the Golden Throne.
And a text-to-speech device.
His physical body is a frail, withered husk, a prison of flesh. For 10,000 years, he has sat immobile and silent. Only his mind endures, yet locked in an eternal battle against the ruinous powers within the Immaterium. So long as he remains, there is hope for the galaxy. Yet should he fall, all reality would be lost beneath a tide of demonic madness and despair. How a being such as...
Because the first thing that's happened is going to be the Golden Throne will fail, and the portal, the webway portal that the Golden Throne is holding closed is going to open, and Terra's going to just get gang raped by every demon in the warp, and that would be bad.
As the Emperor first came to walk among mankind is likely beyond human understanding. There are many within the Imperium who would claim that the Emperor has always existed in some form, and to suggest otherwise is the highest form of heresy. Countless trillions have been put to death for interpreting the Emperor in a fashion outside of the sanctioned imperial cult, and to think a reputable account of his origins might be found in such a regime is to invite madness.
I myself hold to the shaman theory as to his origins.
And yet, records within the Library Sanctus appear to shed light on his beginnings, though none but the Emperor himself can say for sure to what degree such stories reflect reality. According to ancient texts, the being that would become the Emperor was born some 50,000 years ago in a long-forgotten region of Terra.
Turkey.
Some accounts claim he was intended to be the first and greatest of a new race of human psykers, a collective reincarnation of extinct shamans, sorcerers, and wise men who had guided humanity during prehistoric times. For thousands of years before becoming the Emperor, he guided and watched humanity develop. He traveled the globe, assuming countless names and identities, sometimes adopting the persona of a great leader or advisor, a crusader, religious leader, or even messiah.
TTS has a wonderful first-hand account of the Emperor's origin stories. If you've never seen it, you should check it out.
More often, however, he remained an unknown contributor to events, influencing their outcomes in a way that did not betray his involvement. Whatever his actions, all were ultimately in the service of humanity, guiding his race along a path of survival that he alone could see. As more and more humans were born with the same ability to shape the powers of the Immaterium, the Emperor realized he would need to take a more direct and open role in mankind's affairs than ever before. The collapse of the Age of Technology brought about a time of ruin, and without the Emperor's guidance, mankind would perish. The Emperor's first appearance in modern Imperial records is as one of the many petty warlords who struggled for control of Terra during the 30th millennium. His brilliant campaigns against the other techno-barbarian warlords of the planet set him apart, however, as did his use of genetically engineered warriors.
Thunder
Through
Warriors.
his creations, most notably the superhuman Thunder Warriors, the Emperor reunited the planet, but only at terrible cost. The last casualties of the Unification Wars were the Thunder Warriors themselves, struck down by the Emperor's superior creations, lest their growing corruption tarnish everything they'd fought to achieve. Yet the Emperor's greatest ambition were the Primarchs.
I love this picture.
20 superhuman beings whose genomes had been designed using his own genetic code as a foundation.
And
Once
this is
matured,
one of the clearest
they would be his
renderings
greatest
I've ever seen.
generals, diplomats, and statesmen.
Let's back that up just a hair. Sanguinius, Mortarion, Magnus, Angron, and these two being right next to each other and not beating the crap out of each other is just hilarious. The Khan, Lorgar, or Fuckboy as I call him, my boy Dorn, Horus. I need to do a video on the first 3 books of the Horus Heresy, because that's really, to my mind, the 3 best books of the whole series. And of course, Fulgrim. Yep. Mr. Slanesh himself.
Greatest generals, diplomats, and statesmen. The power of the Emperor, however, had been recognized by the malevolent entities of the Immaterium, and seeking to disrupt his plans, they cast out his 20 sons across the galaxy. In the absence of his generals, the Emperor...
Now, if you've been reading the Horus Heresy books, you know there's way more to that than just what that one sentence implies. And I actually just finished reading Valdor, which I want to do a book review on Valdor, which also sheds a lot of light on the Emperor and confirms some things in other books, such as Dark Imperium. Again, subject for another time.
Instead worked to craft his armies. Using genetic samples derived from each of the Primarchs, the Emperor raised legions of new superhuman warriors, the Astartes, and began his reconquest of the solar system. Through expert diplomacy, the Emperor forged a crucial military and political alliance with Mars, cementing the foundation of the Imperium of Man. With the industry of Mars, alien slavers were cast off the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, and the Emperor turned his eyes towards the greater galaxy. The Great Crusade has achieved a legendary status within the Imperium, surpassed only by the Emperor himself. The reports of great victories and triumphs over Xenos races, heretics, and lost human dominions are so numerous as to be essentially endless. It was an era of rebuilding, reunification, and the rapid redevelopment of technologies long thought lost. The Emperor sought to unite all humanity under his banner and ensure human supremacy across the galaxy. With each new world brought under Imperial compliance, his resources grew, accelerating the process nearly exponentially. But the Great Crusade also brought the Emperor back into contact with his lost sons, and not all had grown to be the men he had intended them to be. The galaxy they were cast into was one
the Lorgar novel from the Primarch series it's not the best one, but it is interesting that most of the Primarch novels have given us insight into the Primarchs, deeper insight. Angron is obviously something very different than what the Emperor intended him to be. To the point where when he finds him, he's like, what did they do to you? All right, that's the Emperor's reaction. He's just horrified by what they've done to Angron. And Angron himself, all the Primarchs are to one degree or another telepath or psychers. Angron's power appears to be the ability. He's an empath, and he appears to have the ability to absorb. And spoilers, so many spoilers. Sorry. The suffering of others. He can absorb the suffering of others. He can take it into himself. Such an incredible contrast between, apparently what he was supposed to be and what he turned into.
Of brutal terrors and cruelty. While all among the Primarchs had become expert statesmen, powerful warriors, and wise philosophers,
Not all of
many
them.
exhibited very human failings: fear, hate, arrogance, and jealousy.
Well, the Primarchs are all human. They are superhuman, obviously, uh, but in terms of behavior, personality, drives, fears, ambitions, all that stuff, they are still very human. And of course, that's what leads them to be tempted and ultimately to fall. Uh, Starting with Lorgar, desperate to believe in something greater than himself, and the rot spreading from there.
Yet, the Emperor remained confident enough in their abilities to turn the Great Crusade over to their care, and in particular, his favored son, Horus Lupercal.
And how much did he
The
know
Emperor returned to Terra to
in
personally
advance?
oversee the construction of the Imperial Webway.
There's hints that he knew what was going to happen. He knew going into it, it's going to fall out like this, and that goes back to leading us to the whole idea that the for all his protestations of I don't want to be a god. Um, Maybe he did. Maybe it just maybe there's a wonderful scene where he's playing regicide with somebody, and I believe it's in oh shoot, I can't remember the title. It's the one where you find out that some of the Thunder Warriors are still alive. But anyway, he's playing chess with a guy, and it comes down basically to just this one scenario. There's no way else it can go, and the Emperor says sometimes you have to play the game to its end. So it almost sounds like he knew it was going to go down like this. So that's actually one of my personal theories that the Emperor what that the Emperor's playing a long game goes without saying. We're talking 50,000 years here. But to one degree or another, he had always intended to become an entity that could go toe to toe with the Chaos Gods and beat them on their own terms, or at least fight them to a standstill. And there's plenty of stuff in the lore that supports this. He's had the worship of untold billions poured into him for 10,000 years while doing his level best to not just him, the Inquisition and the Ecclesiarchy to crush any knowledge of the warp and any and of the gods of chaos. And in both cases where it looked like he was going to do something along those lines, the gods of chaos, 10,000 years ago when they scattered the Primarchs, and then the Noctis Eterna, they basically were like stood up to him and shut him down. Anyway, I'm rambling.
This was his ultimate goal, a new means of faster-than-light travel that would forever free mankind from its reliance on the Immaterium and protect it from the depredations of chaos that lay within. But the ruinous powers of the Immaterium had long since realized the threat to their existence posed by the Emperor and moved to thwart his ambitions.
It's like I'm predicting him.
Through their manipulation of the Primarchs, the Chaos Gods convinced 9 among their number to betray the Imperium. Horus himself had become their greatest prize, and together with his brothers launched a decisive strike against the work of their father.
There's Slanesh. Ew. And I think that's the Red Angel from the Blood Angels. I am way far behind in the Horus Heresy books. I am on Pharos.
The tragedies of the Horus Heresy are without number, yet none so cruel as its final turning point. As the Imperial Palace on Terra burned at the hands of the Chaos Legions and demonic hordes, the Emperor confronted Horus aboard his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. The battle between the Emperor and Horus was like nothing the universe had ever seen, before or since. The powers unleashed were simply beyond comprehension. The Emperor had confronted Horus as a means to end the conflict in a single stroke, but according to legend, found himself unable to kill a son he still truly loved. It is said Horus tore off one of his father's arms, shattered many of his organs, and still the Emperor refused to deliver a killing blow.
And again, we're gonna know soon because we're on the Siege of Terra. There's debate, and again, it's cast by several different books that the Emperor, after gaining the powers of the Chaos Gods, began to lose his humanity. He says it himself in Valdor, which is an awesome book. If you haven't read it, check it out. And then there's that moment where Guilliman goes to him in Dark Imperium to see his father, and his father basically looks at him like, "Oh, it's my favorite tool. Go out there and get to work, kid." So I question this. Maybe at that point he was still human enough. The idea of killing Horus was difficult for him, or maybe that was not the case. Maybe when we get into Dark Imperium, not Dark Imperium, maybe when we get into the Siege of Terra and we come to this scene, we're going to find out something entirely different.
From what accounts survived, it appears that it was only when Horus casually and cruelly flayed a man alive who attempted to intervene that the Emperor realized his son was truly lost. The psychic energies that destroyed Horus tore his soul from reality in a manner that blotted the arch-traitor from all existence.
Getting old. Stuff
hurts. It was an act of destruction so final that not even the powers of the Chaos Gods could save or revive their fallen champion. But the act had come too late. The Emperor was mortally wounded. His final instructions to the loyal son that had found his crippled body described how to modify the Golden Throne. It had been intended to form the heart of the Imperial Webway. Now it would be an arcane form of life support, holding together the Emperor's crumbling body. Through his will, the Astronomicon would be projected, a psychic...
And again, the stuff that we don't know, the stuff that we don't theorize about, who was actually supposed to go on the Golden Throne. It seems like it was supposed to have been Magnus, that he would have been able to keep control and keep the portal open in a way that, for instance, Malkador could not. It killed Malkador just to hold it for just a while. Was he intended to be plugged in there as a battery forever? Or did the plan go wrong? Because we know that when Magnus again came to warn his father about Horus, he basically just wrecked everything. So maybe he would not have been permanently encased in it. Maybe he would just have been sort of like, okay, the gatekeeper. All right, maybe we'll find out.
Beacon, allowing travel through the Immaterium and the survival of mankind. For 10,000 years, the Emperor has persisted atop the Golden Throne, his spirit guiding an Imperium that has become a grim mockery of his original intentions. In the Great Crusade, the Emperor brought to the Imperium a materialistic, atheistic faith based on reason and science, rejecting all vestiges of irrationality and superstition. Now, superstition and irrationality rule over all, with the Emperor's true values derided as heresy and witchcraft. The Emperor fought to purge all forms of religious faith and break the power it had always had over humanity. Now, the Emperor himself is venerated as a god, worshipped by countless souls as humanity's divine protector. The Emperor's ultimate goal was to rid humanity of the influence of the ruinous powers. Now the fates of both have intertwined to such an extent that it may be impossible to ever reverse.
And it may have been like that for a long time.
With his ascension to the status of a deity, the nuances of his personality and character have been lost. Was the Emperor a loving father to his sons and all humanity? or a cold and calculating tyrant whose brutal methods tarnished his eventual triumphs.
There's that dichotomy.
The truth is likely somewhere in between, but now impossible to know for certain. Regardless, the being who today sits atop the Golden Throne is likely far different than the man who is interned within it.
Everything else, regardless, 10,000 years on the throne in absolute unending agony. That was my original theory before I read Valdor and a couple of other things. But basically, just 10,000 years on the throne, unable to move, just suffering every moment, and in constant battle with the forces of chaos, constantly keeping the gate closed on Terra, constantly keeping the Astronomicon lit. 10,000 years of that, it would drive anybody, maybe not the Emperor, but I think it would drive anybody else insane. And so, when Guilliman goes in there and he basically wasn't his father, he was just like, all humanity stripped away from him. That was my original thought as to why that was. 10,000 years of that, would change anybody, even the Emperor. But now maybe it's something, maybe it's some combination of all of those things. I could see that happening.
With each passing year, it is said that the power of the Golden Throne grows weaker and the Astronomicon it projects across the galaxy diminishes with it. Only the greatest tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus know the truth. The Golden Throne is failing, and well beyond their ability to repair. The Emperor is dying, and his fate may be inevitable.
Or if they're
The
going to do the Star
emergence of the
Child.
Great Rift is yet another mortal wound. The Imperium has been severed in two, and tens of thousands of worlds are now caught upon the very gates of hell. Titanic warp storms roar across the galaxy, and everywhere, civilizations are tormented, enslaved, and altogether destroyed by demonic legions. Many have proclaimed this to be the time of ending.
Been creeping towards it for years.
In such a dark and terrible era, the followers of the ruinous powers are jubilant. They ridicule the servants of the Imperium, deriding the God Emperor as a corpse lord, carrion god, a false god. But
there's a wonderful, I'm sorry, I keep doing this. There's a wonderful encounter between Guilliman and Mortarion in the third book of the Plague Wars, and it's just, it touches on all that, and they're talking about Dad, and it's pretty darn cool.
Four ruinous powers of chaos, Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch, have another name for the Emperor, not one born out of mockery, but one perhaps out of fear. They know him as the Anathema, for there is no greater embodiment of a universal order, and even in his ruined state, no more potent foe of chaos. The Chaos Gods believe themselves to be on the cusp of their ultimate triumph, but even they cannot ignore the unprecedented events taking place across the galaxy. Even as untold worlds are swept beneath a tide of demonic madness, the influence of the Emperor is exerting itself upon the mortal plane in ways never seen before. While the Emperor in life admonished those who named him a god worthy of adoration, in death he has become this and possibly something more. The worship of countless trillions has undoubtedly had an effect on the power of the Emperor, rippling across the Immaterium in ways impossible to truly understand. The few individuals privileged enough to enter the Golden Throne have come back with the unshakable feeling that even as his mortal body fails, his spirit and will have only grown in power. The ruinous powers of chaos have faced mortal champions and armies, only to corrupt them, manipulate them, or else drown them in a tide of blood and death. They have faced the progress of technology and the power of science only.
Yeah, right there. I've not seen this picture. This is a pretty awesome picture. There's Guilliman, the Avenging Sun, and there is Mortarion. I have not seen this picture. It's pretty awesome.
Manipulate them, or else drown them in a tide of blood and death. They have faced the progress of technology and the power of science, only to pervert their use into crafting ever more grotesque augmentations for their followers. They have faced rival gods, only to consume, shatter, or imprison every rival pantheon set against them. But in orbit of holy terror, as the galaxy burned, they faced the Emperor, only to witness their greatest champion, one imbued with all their power, struck down so completely as to be beyond even their ability to save. The Chaos Gods fear the Emperor not for his champions or armies, his promises of science or technology, or even his ability to wield the powers of a god. They fear the Golden Throne is no longer keeping his decrepit body intact, but rather constraining his ever-growing abilities. They fear that one way or another, should the Emperor ever rise from his internment, he will do so not as a man, not as a god, but as a kind of power that reality has never seen.
Yeah, there's the popular theory that he will be reborn as either the Star Child, which is another reincarnation of the Emperor, or that he'll be born as into the warp as a new god. All right, with the fanatical worship for 10 or 11 or 12,000 years, depending on what year it actually is. With the fanatical worship of trillions upon trillions, and that might make a big difference. That was pretty good. I liked that.
In Dossier, the Templin.
Yeah, that was excellent. Really enjoyed that. It covered some ground that pretty much was already covered. In some cases, I was preempting them, but it was presented in a new way from a new perspective, and we had some new artwork that I had not seen before. So that was pretty good. The Templin Institute has turned out some pretty good stuff. I have to get back to Stellaris Invicta. That may be one of the first ones I jump onto and carry it all the way through because you guys really seem to enjoy that. All right, we've got some other stuff we're going to try to cover tonight. Some more 40K, and we're definitely going to try to do some of the Marvel stuff. You guys stick around. I will be right back. Take it easy.